No matter what, don't buy into these 4 photography myths. If you're new to photography, let's say you're just getting into it in a serious way, you've probably started watching some YouTube videos just like this one to figure out, exactly how to approach it in a more professional, serious kind of way. And you're going to hear all kinds of advice from a lot of YouTubers just like me, and they're all going to have some similar opinions that I frankly believe that we should stop listening to. That's why I put this video together. I wanted to talk specifically about 4 major myths that people just keep propelling in the photography community. And I don't know who started it. It's probably another YouTuber or a social media influencer, someone like that. But everything that they say, everything we say, you have to take with a grain of salt. And that's what I hope to dispel in this video, is all those crazy myths that we hear so often. Now, if you're new to the channel, and if this is your first video and you've stumbled across this, welcome. My name is Jude. I'm an everything photographer in that I don't really care what I'm taking a picture of. I just like getting out and taking pictures. I don't care if it's digital or film or my phone. I just like to take pictures. So yeah, welcome. So glad to have you. Hopefully you stick around to the end. Everything is so precarious right now. Now, one of the first and probably most prevalent myths in the community is the gear myth. And this goes either way. Myth number 1 is that you need a certain piece of gear to get a certain type of photo. This has been popularized over and over by the gear reviewing channels specifically. These channels make their money by talking about gear. So are you really surprised that they're going to be the ones promoting this idea of the newest camera, the best lenses, best combination of kit, filters, and tripods and accessories? So you might go out hiking there kind of looking like I look right now. Giant backpack, shoulder bag, 2 tripods, a bag full of filters. It's just insane the amount of gear we think we need. When really, as long as you know your camera and go out and practice, it really doesn't matter that much. Your first priority is not what kind of gear you have. It's how do you develop your artistic eye? How do you figure out what you like to photograph? Along with that myth comes this idea that, like, if you're a landscape photographer, you've got to shoot with a tripod and long shutter speeds and narrow apertures. And if you're a street photographer, you got to shoot with viewfinder cameras and film cameras and Leicas and blah, 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 blah. Honestly, who cares? In the end, the image is the thing that counts, not how it's captured. That's all just vanity, really. Myth number 2 is that gear doesn't matter. My goodness, how many times have you heard that phrase on YouTube? Gear doesn't matter, gear doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gear you have. And no, this is not in complete opposition to myth number 1. This is a different idea. The idea here is that gear doesn't matter. Just use what you have, And to an extent, it's true. If you're just starting out, don't go ahead and buy the most expensive camera you can find. But in reality, gear does matter. If you don't have the right lens with the right focal length, you're not going to be able to get the shot that you're envisioning. If you've got a digital camera and you want to learn to film, you're out of luck. Gear does matter to an extent in that it will help equip you to capture the shots that you're envisioning in your head. And that's the whole point. Oh man, I'm winded walking uphill and talking to the camera. So gear does matter, but only so far as it's necessary to get the shot that you've already envisioned in your head. As an example, there have been many times I've gone out personally to try to capture a shot, and I'm wandering around and I have this picture in my head of what I want to capture and how I want to capture it, and I wind up going home empty-handed because I don't have the lens that I'm looking for, the focal length that I need, or maybe I don't have the format that I'm envisioning. And you just kind of have to make adjustments as necessary to try to get the shot that you're picturing. but it's never quite the same, and you're never quite as satisfied. And ultimately, the way I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're happy with the photos, you're more likely to continue going out taking pictures, meaning you'll get better faster. And if you use the right kind of equipment, quality equipment that you can afford, you wind up shooting more efficiently, you wind up having more fun, and then you wind up being a happier photographer, resulting in more trips out there taking pictures. So I think that, you know, especially if you're serious about this art and you want to take it further and you're ready to take the next step, invest in your gear so that it can grow with you and it can help you accomplish the photos that you're envisioning, and, you know, build out that portfolio, or at least the beginning of one. And yeah, you'll just wind up growing faster and learning quicker than if you just settle with the basic gear that you started with because some YouTuber said gear doesn't matter. Myth number 3 is one I'd like to blame solely on something called the algorithm. What I mean about the algorithm issue is that we kind of stick to a lane and don't really experiment too much once we've found something that's working with the algorithm, so to speak. You know, it's rare once you've labeled yourself to branch out and try new things. You know, once I've decided I'm a landscape photographer, all of the algorithms, whether that's Instagram, YouTube, what have you, are pointing me towards other landscape photographers. And if I post a family portrait photo shoot that I do, it just doesn't perform super well. So I better stick to my lane and only post things about landscape photography. If you're a portfolio artist, you know, you're building out a portfolio, a professional one, yes, do this. Stick to your lane, do a really good job. Post those photos so that you get jobs doing that thing. But if you're like me and just want to explore the art of photography, who cares? Algorithm be damned. There, I said it. So the sad thing is, as I was talking and as I was setting up that shot, the first shot I took, the light was perfect. Golden light right on that rock. Now it's gone. Just like that, totally gone. So yeah, I think this is the valuable lesson here. It's not necessarily about the gear. It's about when you go out to shoot, how prepared are you, what your approach is that gets you the good shot. So I've converted this one to black and white. I'm shooting an Acros with a red filter, built-in red filter. It's not an actual red filter. And we're gonna see. You're gonna see 25-second exposure. The light is quickly fading, but that's okay. This video is not about the photos necessarily. It's about the subject itself, which is these 4 myths that I feel are sucking people into a system, a system that just, it doesn't work for everybody, to be honest. Ooh, that's terrible. That's a terrible photo. This is an example of where having the right gear helped me accomplish a certain type of photo. If I didn't have that gear, I would not have been able to accomplish it. So thanks to my filter system, I was able to take an ultra long exposure, creating a smooth water surface. Could not have done that had I not had this gear. So that's why that idea that gear doesn't matter, it's kind of silly. And myth number 4, it's this idea that like digital photography versus analog photography, like somehow one of them is better than the other. This is becoming a very interesting debate that I don't think should exist. They're basically 2 halves of the same coin. Both deal with a visual art form, both are about image taking, both require editing and manipulation and exposure control. Sure, digital photography has its benefits, so does analog photography. Just because you shoot one or the other doesn't make you superior. I can promise you that as someone who has done both pretty extensively, neither one is superior. They're different in my mind. Sometimes I get the urge to shoot film, other times I get the urge to shoot digital. Both are satisfying and you can get great images out of either one. Again, stop debating. They're both special, they're both unique, and they're both wonderful. So respect each other, please. The reason I believe this is happening, specifically film photographers versus digital photographers, is all down to the fact that digital photography almost eliminated analog photography in the early 2000s up into 2010. Film almost died. So maybe there's a little bit of a grudge, knowing that film photography was only rescued by hipsters, maybe? Traditionalists? I don't know. People who are specifically like passionate about the film itself. Kodak probably had a part to play, Ilford, I don't know. I think the debate is really similar to like an acoustic musician versus an electronic musician. Both respect each other for the work and the practice and the skills that's required to create the music that they're creating. It's not like one is better than the other. They're just different forms of the same medium. Before the sun goes down completely and it gets too dark to film, I want to throw one more bonus myth at you. So we'll call this myth number 5, and that's there's a right way and a wrong way to do certain photography things. See that face? That was me tripping on a rock. There is no right way and a wrong way. Postmodern art has taught us that. Everything is up to the artists themselves. Now, obviously, as a student, you can be taught to better your skills and technical understanding, but when it comes right down to the art form itself, who's to say what's wrong and what's right? If you think about it, we're all kind of just muddling our way through it anyway. So where does that leave us? Honestly, believe whatever you want to believe. You're the artist, you're the photographer. It's up to you to investigate the subject, decide for yourself. This is just my opinion on the subject. After messing around with different types of photography and spending way too much time and money doing it all wrong, which we'll get into in next week's video, where I tell you everything that I did wrong in my first, honestly, 5 years of photography. So if you enjoyed this content and you want to see that video where I expose how these 4 myths have really just slowed down my personal progress and my personal growth, click that subscribe button, hit the bell, get notifications so it lets you know when that comes out. If you agree with what I'm saying, agree with parts of what I'm saying, disagree with everything I've said, leave a comment down below. I like discussing it with people. There's nothing like a community of artists getting together and being able to have actual conversations on a topic we're passionate about. Big plans for the future. I have not put out a video in a while because I've been working a lot on this big thing that I'm working on. That was cryptic. More details to follow. Catch you in the next one. Take care.